All right, let's dive in. When you think about exploring the ocean, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's snorkeling and scuba diving. They seem like two peas in a pod, right? One's just the shallow version of the other. Well, today we're going to look at some data that tells a very different story. It suggests these two activities might not be family at all.
So this is the way we usually see it. Snorkeling is the fun, casual cousin you hang out with on vacation. Scuba diving, that's the serious, committed sibling who needs all the gear and training. For decades, the entire dive industry has operated on this assumption that snorkeling is just the front door to becoming a scuba diver. But is it? Or is snorkeling a totally separate, massive world hiding in plain sight? Okay, get ready for this, because this is where it gets interesting. The snorkeling market isn't just a little bit bigger than the scuba market. No, in the US, there are 2.4 times more active snorkelers than scuba divers. That's not just a small gap, that is a huge signal that we're looking at this all wrong. And when you see the actual numbers, it's even more dramatic. In 2023, you had 7.5 million people in the US go snorkeling. Compare that to just 3.1 million for scuba. And if you zoom out to a global view, we're talking about an estimated 24 million active snorkelers around the world. This is not some small sideshow, it's a global powerhouse.
So, who exactly are these 24 million people? Are they all just waiting for their chance to strap on a tank? To figure that out, we need to really understand them. Let's build a profile of the typical snorkeler based on the data.
First thing you notice is income. And you know what? Here the two groups look almost identical. Just like scuba divers, snorkelers tend to be pretty well off. Over half of them, 52%, come from households making over 100 grand a year. So from a business perspective, they look like the perfect customer.
And the similarity keeps going when you look at education. About 55% of snorkelers are college grads. You know what that percentage is for scuba divers? Exactly the same. Wealthy, educated. At this point, you're probably thinking they're the same person. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn. The first big difference? Gender. Now, both activities do lean male, but snorkeling is way more balanced. It's almost a 50-50 split, with men making up just 52%. Scuba, on the other hand, is a much more male-dominated world at 62%. Right away, that tells you snorkeling has a broader appeal.
And the differences just get bigger from there, especially with age and race. For snorkeling, the peak age group is teenagers, from 13 to 17. For scuba, it's adults between 25 and 34. That's a completely different life stage. And check this out. In the US, Asian Americans have the highest participation rate in snorkeling, which is a really key demographic.
So, if we pull all that data together to create a stereotype, just based on the highest numbers, you get this: an Asian American teenage guy whose parents are wealthy and college educated. Now, that is a very, very different picture from the one we usually have of a typical scuba diver, isn't it? Which brings us to the big, flashing question at the heart of all this. With this huge, valuable market of snorkelers, the assumption has always been they're the talent pool for scuba diving, that they're just scuba divers in training. But is that true? Are they really making that leap? And here's the number that changes the entire conversation. Only 13.8% of active snorkelers also scuba dive. Let that sink in for a second. That means almost 87%, the vast majority of this massive market, has nothing to do with scuba diving. They are not part of the same family. They're practically strangers. And if you needed any more proof of how separate these two worlds are, consider this. When you ask snorkelers what other activities they do, scuba diving isn't in the top 10. It's not in the top 20. It doesn't even make the top 30. It comes in at a distant number 36. Snorkelers are just not pre-scuba divers, they're snorkelers. So what are they doing then? Well, it's things like walking for fitness, day hiking, going to the gym, even bowling. It paints a picture of someone who likes things that are accessible, easy to get into, and don't require a ton of gear and training. It is a completely different consumer mindset. So all of this leads to a really big, kind of scary question. If you've got this enormous 24 million person market that's full of ideal customers, why is it shrinking? Yeah, the data shows the participation in snorkeling is actually going down. How is that even possible?
Well, the source material we're looking at has a pretty blunt answer. It's because snorkeling is almost always treated like an afterthought. It's the opening act, the sideshow that the main event, scuba, doesn't really care that much about. Let's call this the sideshow problem. Think about it. Snorkelers get thrown on dive boats, they're handled by scuba instructors who are thinking about their next dive class, and they're sold gear in shops built for tech divers. They're made to feel like they're in the way, when all they want is a simple, fun way to see some cool fish. So, how do we fix this? How does the industry turn this decline around and tap into this incredible market? Well, the good news is the path forward is actually pretty clear. It just takes a major change in how we think about things. The very first step, the most important one, is to simply think snorkeling. That means treating it like its own real, self-sufficient business. It's not a marketing funnel for scuba classes. It's a huge market in its own right, and it deserves its own dedicated strategies and its own unique experiences.
So what does that actually look like? Well, first, stop trying to turn every snorkeler into a diver. It's not working. Instead, have dedicated snorkeling guides and staff who actually get it. Try out new things that bridge the gap, like those tankless diving systems where you can go down a little bit without all the gear. The whole focus needs to shift from complex certifications to simple access and fun.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. For decades, the entire dive industry has been obsessed with going deeper, getting more certifications, buying more complicated gear. But what if the single biggest opportunity for growth isn't deep down at all? What if it's been floating right there on the surface this whole time, just waiting for someone to finally pay attention? Thanks for tuning in.